Is America making the biggest EV mistake in history? And is it already too late to fix it? While America is debating electric vehicles, China's building factories, supply chains, workforce, and knowledge that can control the future of transportation. In this video, I'm going to give you the most comprehensive breakdown you're going to hear on why China is winning the EV race, why America is moving so slowly, and what we can still do about it. Now let's go ahead and get into this. To understand why China is moving so aggressively toward electric vehicles, we have to stop looking at this only as an environmental issue. For China, this is a national security issue, an economic issue, and an industrial strategy issue. China is the largest crude oil importer in the world. In 2024, it imported approximately 11.1 million barrels of crude oil a day, and approximately 92% of those imports arrive by sea. Just think about what that means. Much of China's oil travels from the Middle East through narrow waterways such as the Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of Malacca, shipping lanes that can be disrupted by war, sanctions, or a blockade. That creates a major strategic vulnerability. If Chinese consumers use gasoline at the same rate that Americans do, China would become even more dependent on foreign oil and vulnerable shipping routes. China can generate electricity domestically from coal, nuclear power, hydroelectric power, wind, and solar. China still burns an enormous amount of coal, so we shouldn't pretend that every Chinese electric vehicle runs on clean energy. That's simply not the case. But China cannot manufacture oil it simply doesn't have. That's why electric vehicles aren't simply part of a climate program for China. They're part of a much larger energy security strategy. Every electric vehicle China puts on the road is one that will need gasoline for the next 10, 15, or possibly 20 years. In 2025, electric vehicles in China displaced approximately 1 million barrels of oil demand per day compared with what road transportation would have consumed without them. And that is oil that China did not have to ship through vulnerable shipping lanes. At the same time, China is building an industry it can sell to the rest of the world, reducing their strategic weakness while creating manufacturing power, exports, jobs, and influence. Before we go any further, if you appreciate balanced electric vehicle discussions that go beyond electric good or gasoline good, take a second to subscribe to the channel and also hit that notification bell because the issue isn't as simple as either side likes to make it sound. Now let's go ahead and get back into this. Energy security explains part of China's strategy, but it doesn't explain all of it. China had another powerful reason to pursue electric vehicles. China was late to the internal combustion engine business. The United States, Germany, and Japan had spent generations perfecting engines, transmissions, supply chains, dealerships, and globally recognized brands. The automakers had knowledge and experience that China could not reproduce overnight. China could have spent decades trying to beat those companies at a game they had already mastered. So basically, China was like, we're not going to be able to beat them at this game. So instead, we're going to change the game. Electric vehicles, they don't need traditional engines or multi-speed transmissions, fuel injectors, exhaust systems, or many of the components established automakers spent a century perfecting. However, that does not erase the advantages of American, German, or Japanese automakers. Building a safe, reliable vehicle at scale remains extremely difficult. Experience in engineering, quality control, and manufacturing still matters. But electric propulsion reduces the value of some of the mechanical advantages that those automakers spent generations developing. So China had less to protect in the old system and far more to gain by disrupting it. So China didn't treat electric vehicles like some other product category. It treated them like industrial policy. China supported battery companies, built factories, secured mineral processing, developed supply chains, expanded charging, and encouraged consumers to buy what it calls new energy vehicles, which includes battery electric vehicles and also plug-in hybrids. Most importantly, China created scale. In 2025, more than 13 million electric cars were sold in China. Close to 55% of new cars that were sold were electric. And China accounted for approximately 6 out of every 10 electric cars sold worldwide. So China didn't wait for the electric vehicle to become perfect. It started building the market, the workforce, and the supply chains it wanted to control. And every additional vehicle produced gave Chinese companies another opportunity to learn, improve, and to lower their costs. China's advantage isn't simply that it builds a lot of electric vehicles. It's building the supply chains and the knowledge behind them. China doesn't own every lithium mine in the world. But once many of those materials come out of the ground, China has the factories and the expertise to process them and turn them into batteries. China produces more than 3/4 of the batteries sold globally and has nearly 85% of global battery cell manufacturing capacity. Just think about that. And that's enough detail to understand the larger point I'm trying to make. China isn't simply building from parts developed somewhere else. It's building expertise through the most valuable portions of the supply chain. And that scale creates a cycle. The more batteries and vehicle China builds, the more its workers and engineers learn. That experience helps companies improve quality, lower costs, and develop the next generation a lot faster. And this is the part that America risks underestimating. If electric vehicles become the world's predominant form of personal transportation, the countries that spent years building them would already have the factories, trained workers, and suppliers, and the knowledge. The countries that waited would not be able to recreate all of that overnight by announcing a new factory or discovering a new lithium deposit. You can buy equipment, you can construct a building, but you cannot instantly create years of manufacturing experience. And while China gains all that experience, America risks falling so far behind that catching up becomes extremely difficult and expensive. So now you may be asking, if the strategic case for China is so strong, why isn't America moving with the same level of urgency? And this is because America faces almost the opposite set of incentives. China views imported oil as a liability it needs to escape. America views domestically produced oil as an asset it needs to protect. For decades, the United States worried about foreign oil embargoes, gasoline shortages, price spikes, and instability in the Middle East. Then the shale revolution changed everything. Hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling unlocked enormous oil and natural gas resources. By 2025, the United States was producing approximately 13.6 million barrels of crude oil per day, more than any other country. The irony is, America became the world's largest oil producer at almost the exact moment much of the world began seriously looking for ways to use less oil. And this kind of reminds me of compact disc and streaming music. Streaming music didn't make every compact disc stop working. Some people still prefer owning physical music, and compact discs are probably going to be around for a very long time. But imagine building the world's greatest compact disc factory, just as most new customers started moving to streaming. You can remain profitable for years. You can still have loyal customers, but that will no longer be where the market is growing. Oil isn't going anywhere, and neither are gasoline vehicles, not anytime soon anyway. Oil will remain essential for aviation, shipping, heavy equipment, chemicals, plastics, lubricants, asphalt, and millions of vehicles already on the road. But transportation accounts for roughly 2/3 of American oil consumption. So even a gradual change on how vehicles are powered could eventually have a major effect on demand. And we've actually already seen how quickly the economics of oil can change when transportation demand falls. Think back to COVID-19. Businesses shut down. Millions of people stopped commuting. Air travel collapsed. Highways empty. In April of 2020, United States oil consumption fell by 27% compared with the year before. And on April 20th of 2020, the price of the front month West Texas Intermediate Crude Oil Futures contract fell below zero. It closed at approximately negative $37 a barrel. Now I want to be careful here. That doesn't mean that gasoline was free or that every barrel of oil in America was worth negative $37. That wasn't the case. There were some unusual circumstances involving future contracts, expiration dates, and shortage of available storage. But why was storage filling up in the first place? Because demand had collapsed much faster than oil production could adjust. We were still producing enormous amounts of oil, but we weren't driving or flying at anywhere near the same rate. So oil started piling up. COVID-19 gave oil producers and policymakers an extreme glimpse of something very important. When transportation demand falls, the economic consequences can spread quickly through oil-producing companies, their workers, suppliers, lenders, and the communities that depend on them. Electric vehicles won't eliminate oil demand overnight. The transition will happen over decades, giving producers far more time to adjust. But the basic principle is still the same. If millions of gasoline vehicles are gradually replaced with electric vehicles, oil demand goes down. And oil demand does not have to go to zero to disrupt producers. Imagine worldwide demand falling by 10, 15, 20%, while producers still have the capacity to supply more oil than the market needs. Everybody would be competing to sell into a shrinking market, putting pressure on prices, profits, employment, and investments. And that matters a lot to the United States because we invested heavily into becoming the world's largest oil producer. America's oil abundance gives us energy security, jobs, exports, income, and time. And those are real advantages. It also gives America far more to lose from a rapid transition than China. That doesn't mean America should reject electric vehicles. It just means our hesitation isn't completely irrational. America has more infrastructure, employment, investment, and economic activity tied to oil and gasoline vehicles. China has far more to gain by reducing oil consumption. We have the opposite problem and the opposite incentives. COVID-19 showed us how dramatically the economics of oil can change when transportation demand changes. An electric vehicle transition will be slower and more predictable, but the warning is still there. America finally won the oil race, just as another race was beginning. The question is whether we'll use our oil advantage to prepare for the next transportation economy or use it for a reason not to prepare. When people resist this transition, that doesn't automatically mean they're ignorant or afraid of technology. New technologies often look unnecessary, expensive, and inconvenient in the beginning. I remember when federal efficiency standards began pushing traditional incandescent bulbs out of the market. And this is an incandescent bulb here, the kind with the filament that would get hot, in case you don't remember. And I remember a lot of people were angry, but a lot of the complaints were legitimate. Incandescent bulbs are inexpensive, they produce warm light, they came on instantly and worked with dimmers. Compact fluorescent lamps, commonly called CFLs, were supposed to be an efficient replacement. And this is a compact fluorescent lamp, or CFL right here, one of these curly Qs. I remember switching a lot of the bulbs in my house to these CFLs, and they weren't that great. Some hummed, they took a long time to brighten, some produced a strange light, and they also contained a small amount of mercury in them. And so you had to be careful how you disposed of them. And these CFLs were an perfect bridge between incandescent bulbs and light-emitting diode bulbs, commonly called LEDs. But when these LEDs came out, they were expensive. They produced harsh light. They didn't always work properly with dimmers, but the technology kept improving. Prices fell, the lighting, dimming, and reliability improved. Manufacturers produced LEDs for almost every fixture. And today's LEDs use approximately 80 to 90% less electricity than traditional incandescent bulbs and last many times longer. And today I wouldn't even consider replacing a bulb in my house with one of these incandescent bulbs. I'm going to show you an example of how quickly lighting improved. This used to be what was called a can light. You've probably seen one of these in new construction, or if you're doing a rehab on a house. That's what these things looked like not that many years ago. And now this is the new LED. This replaces a can light. Look at how thin this is. This is like a quarter of an inch thick. And it dims well and everything. So this is how quickly technology improves. And so today I would even consider replacing one of my bulbs with a can light or an incandescent bulb. And not because somebody forced me to do it, it's because the product became a better choice. That's an important lesson for electric vehicles. Today's objections are not imaginary. Look, I own electric vehicles and I love them. But electric vehicles remain too expensive for many families. Renters may have nowhere to charge. Public charging can still be unreliable and expensive. Cold weather reduces range. Towing creates compromises. Road trips require more planning. Those limitations are real, but they are not necessarily permanent. In fact, electric vehicles have come a very long way just over the last 5 years, so a lot of these things are improving already. Hybrids and plug-in hybrids may serve as bridges while batteries improve, prices fall, and charging expands. The transition won't be secure by regulations alone. It will be secure when electric vehicles become products consumers choose because they work better for their needs. People didn't embrace LEDs because they fell in love with government standards. We embraced LEDs because the new technology eventually made the old bulbs difficult to justify. Regulations may start a transition, but a better product finishes it. But better technology is no guarantee that companies leading today will be leading tomorrow. Think about Blockbuster Video. Movies didn't disappear. What changed was how entertainment reached us and which company controlled the new delivery system. Blockbuster business disappeared, but movies continued through Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Disney, movie theaters, and other platforms. Family video held on longer, but holding on wasn't the same as building the future. Eventually, almost the entire video rental store industry disappeared. Cars aren't disappearing though. People will still commute, take road trips, haul equipment, and transport their families. But it doesn't guarantee today's American automakers will build the vehicles the world buys tomorrow. Movies survived Blockbuster. Transportation will survive today's automakers too. And then there's BlackBerry. BlackBerry is one of the most important names in mobile phones. Its keyboard, email, and security made it the device of choice for professionals and government officials. Then Apple introduced the iPhone with its large multi-touch screen and software-centered experience. BlackBerry eventually produced touchscreen phones, but they reacted too slowly. It remained attached to its old advantages and failed to build a competitive app ecosystem quickly enough. BlackBerry still exists today, but is no longer a major phone manufacturer. It survived as a company, but it lost a market it once dominated. That can become the future of an American automaker. Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis could sell profitable gasoline trucks and SUVs in North America for years. They could survive, shrink, specialize, and become primarily regional companies. But survival is not the same as leadership. Blockbuster teaches us that a product can survive while its old delivery system disappears. BlackBerry teaches us that adopting new technology too late may preserve a company without preserving its market position. And lighting teaches us that consumers can resist technology until it improves enough to become normal. 3 different stories, One warning: organizations that confuse today's success with permanent superiority can lose the market they once controlled. That's why this competition is beginning to resemble another space race. But this time, there's no finish line. Nobody lands on the moon and plants a flag and declares the competition is over. Every battery and vehicle produced creates knowledge for the next generation. America helped pioneer the modern electric era. General Motors introduced the EV1 in the 1990s. And Tesla later proved that an electric vehicle could be fast, desirable, long range, and centered around software. But pioneering a technology does not guarantee control of the industry built around it. Cheap gasoline reduced consumer interest. The shale revolution made oil dependence less urgent. American automakers continue to earn enormous profits from gasoline trucks and SUVs. And those decisions made sense in the short term. But short-term profits create long-term vulnerability. Gasoline vehicles remain profitable. Dealers know how to sell and service them. Factories know how to build them. Customers understand them. And the infrastructure already exists. But if protecting those profits prevents us from mastering electric powertrains, batteries, and software, we may protect the old industry until we can no longer compete in the new one. But America isn't doing nothing. Battery plants are being built, billions of dollars have been invested, and American workers and engineers are developing valuable expertise. But a factory announcement is not the same as a functioning industry. Factories need customers, workers need a stable career, suppliers need predictable demand. Companies need enough certainty to make investments that may take decades to recover. If demand remains weak and policy changes every 4 years, factories can be delayed, canceled, or operated far below their potential. Every year that happens gives China another year to train workers, improve its technology, reduce defects, lower costs, and build relationships in global markets. America can still compete, but every year we wait raises the cost of catching up. And this is why the EV transition can be reduced to a simple argument of EV good, EV bad. America has an entire economic ecosystem built around internal combustion engine vehicles. That includes engine, transmission plants, suppliers, refineries, pipelines, gas stations, oil change businesses, parts stores, dealerships, service departments, repair shops, and the communities that depend on them. Many of these businesses will adapt. Electric vehicles still require tires, suspension work, heating and cooling systems, computers, collision repair, and trained technicians. But they don't require the same parts and maintenance or labor. Electric transportation will also create new jobs. But the questions are, where will those jobs be located? Will Americans be trained for those jobs? And will they arrive before the old jobs disappear? America needs workers trained in battery manufacturing, electric motors, power electronics, thermal systems, software, robotics, recycling, and high voltage repair. But people can retrain based on slogans. Schools need to know which programs to build. Companies need confidence in the market. Workers need to believe that a new skill will lead to a stable career. The worst outcome would be for America to lose those engine and transmission and oil-related jobs, while China gains the battery, electric motor, electronic, and the software jobs that are replacing them. And that wouldn't stop the transition. It will simply determine which country will receive the most benefits. American automakers can still remain profitable selling gasoline trucks and SUVs in the United States. But the United States isn't the entire global market. In 2025, worldwide electric vehicle sales exceeded 20 million vehicles. 1 out of every 4 new cars sold globally was electric. Electric car sales more than doubled in Southeast Asia and increased by approximately 75% in Latin America. Outside the United States and Europe, Chinese imports accounted for approximately 55% of electric car sales in 2025. In countries across Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, more than 80% of imported electric cars came from China. Those countries may not be choosing between an electric Ford and an electric General Motors vehicle. They may be choosing between Chinese brands Americans never heard of. And that is exactly how American automakers risk becoming regional companies, while Chinese automakers become global companies. Now, America can protect its domestic market with tariffs. And tariffs may be necessary to respond to unfair trade practices or protect strategically important industries while they develop. But tariffs cannot make an American vehicle competitive in Brazil, Thailand, South Africa, or the Middle East. Protection can buy time, but it cannot replace innovation. None of this means that China's approach is perfect. China battery electric vehicle industry raises serious questions about mining damage, pollution, worker conditions, government subsidies, excess production capacity, intellectual property, unfair trade practices, cybersecurity, and dependence on Chinese processing and technology. America shouldn't replace dependence on foreign oil with complete dependence on China for batteries, electric motors, electronics, and software. And we shouldn't pretend that every American can replace a gasoline vehicle tomorrow. Renters need practical charging. Rural drivers need sufficient range and dependable infrastructure. Families need affordable vehicles. Workers and communities need time and support. Truck owners need vehicles that can tow and haul without unacceptable compromises. And people that already own reliable gas vehicles should not be treated as if they're doing wrong by continuing to drive them. As I always say, multiple things can be true at once, and they often are. America can have a legitimate reason for moving slower. China's industrial policies can be unfair and strategically dangerous. Gasoline vehicles can remain a better choice for a lot of Americans. And America can still be making a historic mistake by allowing China to dominate batteries, electric powertrains, and affordable electric vehicles. The truth isn't found by blindly choosing one side. The truth is in the details. So what should America do? We don't have to copy China's political system. We don't have to force the country to go electric overnight. We don't have to pretend like every electric vehicle is perfect, but we do need long-term industrial strategy that survives election cycles and give companies enough certainty to make serious investments. First, build battery, electric motor, power electronics, and mineral processing capacity in the United States and allied countries. America doesn't need to produce everything by itself. We can build resilient supply chains with allies to avoid dangerous dependence on any single country. Second, support more than one transition technology. Battery electric vehicles work well for many households. Hybrids and plug-in hybrids can reduce gasoline use while charging infrastructure develops. More efficient gasoline vehicles can still help during the transition. We don't need one vehicle technology to solve every transportation problem. Third, focus on affordable vehicles. America won't win global competition by building only $80,000 electric trucks and SUVs. We need vehicles ordinary families can afford, buy, insure, and repair. Fourth, invest in research, manufacturing, recycling, and worker training. We should retrain workers before their jobs disappear, not after the factory closes. Fifth, build reliable charging where people actually need it. That includes apartments, workplaces, rural corridors, and overlooked communities. Homeowners with garages can't be the only people that benefit. And finally, stop turning every electric vehicle discussion into a culture war loyalty test. Buying an electric vehicle doesn't mean someone hates oil. Driving a gasoline truck doesn't mean someone hates technology. America doesn't need everyone to love electric vehicles. We just need enough scale to remain technologically and industrially competitive. America finally won the oil race just as the starting gun went off for the battery race. Our oil production gives us security, jobs, exports, income, and time. But time only has value if we use it. China moved toward electric vehicles because imported oil was a weakness and batteries offered an industrial strength. America faces the opposite incentives. Oil is one of our strengths. Gasoline remains profitable. Our transportation system still works for millions of people. That explains why we're moving slower, but it doesn't eliminate the danger. While America protects the industry it already has, China is building the industry most of the world may eventually need. We don't have to go completely electric overnight. We don't have to abandon oil tomorrow. And we don't have to pretend that electric vehicles solve every transportation problem. But America cannot afford to spend the next decade debating whether electric vehicles are legitimate, while China spends that decade improving batteries, training workers, lowering costs, and capturing global markets. Incandescent bulbs still produce light, but the market moved to LEDs. Movies survived. Blockbuster didn't. BlackBerry survived as a company, but it lost the phone market it once dominated. Transportation will survive too. The question isn't whether the next industrial revolution is coming. It's already here. The question is whether America will lead it or spend the next generation trying to catch up. Now, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you agree or disagree, or do you think I'm completely wrong? And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. But that's all I have for today. I'd like to thank you for joining me once again, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.